Hey, welcome back to Flywheel Films and welcome to a beautiful Sunday out in the mountains and the canyons of Colorado. And there's a billion Miatas here. You'll see footage of them, but this is actually not why I'm doing this video. I'm doing this video because I recently did a 100,000 mile long-term ownership review. Please check that out. It was such a huge piece of work. But I prompted you guys. I was like, what other videos do you want to see topically? What kind of conversations can we have on the channel about modifications? There's so many to do. I've done dozens, maybe 100 over the course of 2 different Miatas. And between all these Miatas out here, there's also hundreds of different modifications you can do, which is an awesome problem to have. Maybe not even a problem, it's just overwhelming at times. So I've decided to jump into a topical series of conversations. What are the best 5 modifications? Stay tuned for other videos such as the worst 5 or the most overrated 5, maybe the cheapest 5 modifications. If you want to see any of those videos, let me know which one you're most interested in down below. See you in the comments. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss those videos. But today we're starting with the best 5 modifications. Now, this is not meant to be preaching because everyone has their own opinions, and that's why I want this to be a conversation. This is not me telling you objectively the best 5. This is, in my experience, the best 5. As I mentioned, I've lived with Miatas for the better part of the last 10 years and hundreds of thousands of miles and a few different Miatas. Of course, I have friends with all different generations of Miatas and Fiatas. So this is a bit NC specific, and maybe I should do these for other Miata generations as well, because each one does have, I think, a variation with the most recommended 5 modifications. But I don't want this to be preaching, so this is a conversation, and these top 5 are not actually in any particular order. Think of these as the top 5 number 1 modifications, because, you know, if you're thinking of 100 modifications, the top 5 are all pretty far up on that list. So let's get in the car, let's go on a cruise and have a conversation. Well, we jumped in our cars and we are jumping right into the conversation, starting with a mod that is actually NC specific. Now, a lot of these mods are NC, or actually car generic. They work across all Miatas, they work across all cars, but this one is a bit of a crutch with the NC, or is that the right word? I don't know, a weak point. The coolant expansion tank. Number 1, coolant expansion tank. Again, these are not in order, but I'm just starting with this one, getting it out of the way. It's not that interesting. It's just, if you search the forums, or if you're on a cruise like this and talk to an NC owner, they'll probably mention coolant expansion tank, you should replace it. It's a ticking time bomb. It's gonna explode. I don't know. I've personally never had an issue. Even with my first NC, 07, original coolant expansion tank, never blew up. That being said, maybe I was lucky, and a lot of people have been unlucky. There's a lot of documented cases of the coolant expansion tank failing. So I can recommend replacing it. Now, there's 2 routes you can go with this. You can get another OEM one, another plastic one from Mazda. That's definitely the cheapest, maybe the easiest to find, and that would do the part. You just may want to replace it every so often. Maybe every time you do spark plugs, replace the coolant expansion tank or something like that. And you can actually look around the ring to see if it looks worn at all. But that being said, people have said they have exploded early on. So I just decided to play it safe. I went with the Dave Fab aluminum coolant expansion tank. There's other companies that make them as well. Even just looking around some of these NCs out here cruising with me today on the beautiful Squaw Pass. A note on that later, the name anyways. Some of them have other brands. One guy though has a aluminum coolant expansion tank and it's actually failing. Well, the eye sight, so the side of a coolant expansion tank on some of them have a sight so you can see where the oil or the coolant level is. Obviously the plastic one is semi-clear, translucent, so you can see the coolant level. Mine you can't. And I was willing to deal with that because having an eye sight or a sight, whatever you call it, a level sight, is technically another point of failure. So for what it's worth, just get a coolant expansion tank, play it safe. It's kind of like insurance. You never need it until you do. So once again, we are out here on Squaw Pass, which has now been renamed to, I think, Mastahe Pass or something like that. I'll throw the name on the screen. Squaw, as it turns out, it's been named this for years and decades, I mean, for like ever. But squaw is actually a derogatory term to some Native American tribes. just like Eskimo. A lot of people don't know that Eskimo is actually a derogatory term to many tribes, and so they prefer like Inuit, or even their specific tribe is what they really prefer, obviously. But so they have renamed it. The signs are not fully reflected, the map's not fully reflected. That stuff takes time. This is the road that takes you up to Mount Evans, which is now called Mount Blue Sky. And that was what me and Austin did an epic video, linked in the description, or a card up here, I guess, where we drove the Miata, this Miata, up to over 14,000 feet elevation. Amazing video, gorgeous scenery, highly recommend checking that out. Okay, back to the modifications. Tires. And maybe you could lump wheels into this if you're being, I don't know, not specific to 5 exact things. Tires play a huge part in any car. Any car. By default, Miatas, especially NC and ND, I don't know enough about NA and B, but I know they come with smaller wheels, but NC and NDs could come with 16 by 6.5 or 17 by 7-inch wheels, upon which were all seasons, which are great. All seasons are fine for most people, and if you're not doing spirited driving, it may be a near as makes no difference situation. However, out on the canyons like this, beautiful mountain roads, you might want to put a little speed on, and then autocross, track, or even like in my case, driving in the snow in the winter, I really recommend tires. They make such a huge difference. Now, I've gone all the routes. I went with super cheap snow tires and super cheap summer tires. They were fine. But then I went with really nice snow tires, Nokian Hakkapeliitta R5, shout out to Nokian, and Michelin PS4S. Oh my gosh, that made a huge difference. So I recommend getting proper performance tires. If you really want to see what your Miata can do, just do it. Just do it. And honestly, what I tell a lot of people is just get like a second set of wheels if you can. If you have the space, if you can afford it. Honestly, you can find wheels for cheap used, which I highly recommend. If you need to have winter capabilities, or if you want to have dedicated summer capabilities, I really recommend, if you can, get 2 sets of wheels. Hey, thanks for letting us pass. Appreciate it. 2 sets of wheels, 2 sets of tires. It'll just make your life awesome. Like, you can have any set for any occasion. Honestly, my dream is like 4 sets of wheels, 4 sets of tires. And so that's what I recommend. Just get like a 17 by 8 maybe, a little bit wider wheel with a little bit wider tire, and then some sticky tires. I think it's awesome. So many nice people out waving today. It's so great. I love these drives. So I'm excited to show you guys this road. I've been meaning to show you guys more of the Colorado scenery. So I thought, why not do it while having a topical conversation? And we're passing the entrance to Mount Blue Sky right now. Absolutely epic, gorgeous scenery, beautiful day, 45 degrees up here. So, on to number 3. Again, not in order, just the third top one. Suspension. Maybe sway bars linked into this as well. Suspension was one of the early mods I did, but actually a later video I did. Definitely check out the video. I did it with my friend Ethan, and we installed Meister R's Zeta CRD coilovers. With suspension, you can go with coilovers, or you can go with springs and shocks. Flying Miata has great springs and shock sets. You know, the Stage 2 kit is amazing. So I really recommend suspension. It really settles the car. Miatas from the factory are, again, fine, but they're a bit boaty. Not just the NC boats, like all Miatas are just a bit floaty, a bit wavy. It's just not really set up to make you feel planted and confident in the corners. I put on coilovers, and that settled it down tremendously, to the point to where now, dozens of modifications in, 5 years almost in, I still haven't done sway bars. Now, sway bars are in a box in my garage. They are literally like next. So stay tuned for that video. You don't want to miss it. And I'm really excited because everyone talks up sway bars tremendously. A lot of people say go sway bars first. I honestly went coilovers first, no regrets, so I can recommend coilovers first. And again, shocks and springs. There's a lot of routes, a lot of different price points. Anything will get you pretty far, I think. But definitely do that early on if you can. I know it's a bit expensive, but it is also the thing where the more money you put into it, the better it is, honestly. I went kind of middle of the road with coilovers, Meister R's Zeta CRDs. Genuinely, I can recommend them. They're fantastic. They're very sporty, but also can be soft enough for good daily driving. If you go cheaper, you can get that sporty, direct, planted feeling, but you sacrifice some ride comfort. If you go more expensive, think Fox or Oleans, then you get definitely better daily driving comfort, but even more handling capability. It's just a lot of money and research goes into developing those, which is why you're paying a bit more. All that to say, suspension is high on this list. Number 4, head unit. This is also an early modification, an early video, and still my most viewed video on this channel was installing the Sony XAV AX5000 head unit. Now, most head units are very similar in their installation process, so don't feel like you have to go with a specific brand. However, I would go Sony again and again and again. It's amazing. This head unit's like 6 years old. It's still more responsive and faster than some new cars that I review. My other job is reviewing cars, especially state-of-the-art electric cars. And it's sad that you can buy a 2024 Mustang Mach-E and it has a worse CarPlay experience than this 6-7-year-old head unit. So that's a huge thing. You can get it because of Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. I'm a CarPlay snob. Sorry, I don't make friends with Android. Just kidding, I have a lot of Android fans, but it really is great. Like in this case, I'm driving the canyons. I love to have the map so I can see what turns are coming up. I love to have navigation in cities because I'm always traveling, driving around the country in this car, always new places. It's just great to have navigation. And a side effect was that the head unit really did improve the actual audio fidelity of the Bose stereo. Now, if I didn't have the Bose, I would have already put in aftermarket speakers. I probably still will at some point do a full Boseectomy. So if you have any recommendations for speakers, let me know. I know many of you have reached out with recommendations already, which I really appreciate. So head unit, really, really can recommend. The other route you can go though is, you know, I went with, I don't know, going state of the art, like just a nice modernization. The other route, opposite of modernization, is minimalist. That's the route Jackson, AKA Colored in Light, go check out his video on both head unit and removing head units. He completely took it out. He deleted it and it looked clean. It was super, super simple. So that's a cool route. Some people delete the head unit, put gauges in there, some extra storage. There's a lot of routes you can go with this car. That's why I love it. And while you're in there, just throw in a reverse camera. I mean, it's not like you really need it with this car, but honestly, top up. Blind spots are a thing. And it's just nice to see exactly where the curb is. So no regrets on doing any of that. Last but far from least, and actually is the second mod I think I ever did, was the muffler. Or I guess you could lump in the entire exhaust system. It's fantastic. I have the Goodwin Super Q. I did it purely for sound. It really doesn't do performance. I mean, it's arguable, like maybe 2 horsepower or something. It's just a little bit more open than the factory stock muffler. Actually gives you some sound. The factory one is so quiet and no regrets. I think it's awesome. There's a lot of routes you can go. Manny is in front of me. He has a video on installing, well, actually I think Ethan installed his RS2, something like that, Roadster Sport. Everyone's so happy to see all these Miatas. It's so great. I've got like 80 Miatas behind me, 20 in front of me. Those are exaggerating numbers, but guys, come out to Colorado and cruise with us. It's a good time. I'll do some cruise videos this summer, I promise. But yeah, the muffler, huge. Now, recently I did the exhaust further down the line, the header. That, honestly, if you can just pair the whole exhaust as a modification, just do the whole thing. The mid-pipe, especially like something like a Helmholtz from Goodwin. I have the Racing Beat Performance header with a cat delete, allegedly, and a tune, and that just really woke up my car. Sounds great. You can hear it. This thing sounds awesome. It drives really well. The exhaust and header and tune just really woke up the car. So really, really can recommend this and everything. All these mods. It was hard to limit it down to 5. I could easily make a top 10 list, a top 15 list. And this is subjective. This is meant to be, like I said in the very beginning, not me preaching. It's meant to be me just telling you what works for me. So let me know what works for you. What are your top 5? Did you do your mods in order of operation, like in order of priority? Did you prioritize them in terms of cheapness, affordability? Like, the Doppler effect of the horn going by is awesome. Yeah, let's make it a conversation. Make it a symposium down in the comments. Let me know what mods you loved. And actually, tell me what mods you didn't like, what mods were cheapest. Let's start fueling my ideas for the next videos. The 5 cheapest, the 5 most overrated, the 5 worst. Maybe the 5 most expensive mods you could do. There's so much to discuss with the Miata. No end of content. That's why I want to do more of these evergreen pieces. Pieces that are just, you know, this is my top 5 and probably will be until something tremendous happens, in which case I might change my mind. So let's talk in the comments, and I'll see you guys on another video very soon. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of the cruise after the credits. It's not really credits, is it? It's like just title screen, bumper. There's a lot of names for that. Whatever. By the way, shout out to Andreas, my German friend, for turning me on to Tritonia. That's the music I listen to for every single cruise now. That's literally it. So, thanks Andreas. Great taste in music. I can't play it because of copyright, but you could just imagine it.